Hey everyone, welcome to another intensifying episode of PowerPod where SAS meets substance. And today we'll be talking about mental health and a lot of aspects related to it. And you could call it maybe the business of mental health. So, my name is Nitya and I'm your host today. And with me, I have a lot of my colleagues and friends who are going to discuss and convey their opinions on mental health and what they feel about it. So, without much ado, let's see what we have in today's podcast for you guys. Okay, so essentially, mental health is something that we all talk about these days. It has become the biggest health problem, I would say, in today's world. And citing our generation, how do they lead? And citing how our generation leads their lives, it's very essential to take care of mental health, especially when it comes to work-life balance or even personal or professional issues. So mental health to all of us means different things, but I would say the after effects or the various forms of mental health, it's not just that it's all in your head. I would say it could be mental health could actually depict a lot on your physical health, and that is why it's very essential to know why mental health affects you and in what ways it does. So we'll also be talking about a lot of ways in which mental health can affect your life, affect your day-to-day routine, and how much day-to-day routine.
Thank you, Nitya, and thank you, team. My name is Sami. I'm from Egypt. I'm a young leader. You can say it's the same as physical health. It's something that you need to take care of frequently. Like when you face a big problem physically, you have to see a doctor. But if not, you still have to exercise, work out every day. As for mental health, when you face a big issue mentally, you have to seek help. But if not, you still have to keep practice. Like you have to keep like an hour or 20 minutes. You have to keep like an hour or 20 minutes a day where you can just talk to yourself, just write, listen to music, or just scream out to the top of your lungs, anything. But that's would be helpful just to be staying fit every day regarding, mental health. So that's my answer.
A very brief and insightful answer, Sami. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for introducing yourself. Next, we have Cleo. So Cleo, how are you feeling today?
Hi. I'm actually feeling really, really great today. Let me introduce myself. My name is Cleo, and I'm a young leader at Girl Power Talk under marketing and PR. It's so nice to meet you, everyone. And thank you, Nitya, for asking how I'm doing today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Cleo, and thank you so much for sharing. That next, we move on to our colleague Tanushka. And Tanushka, so what is it that recently made you happy or sad? And you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Tanushka. I'm from India. And to answer your question, Nitya, honestly speaking, I've been busy with work lately. So I'm just boosting my dopamine levels by watching episodes of Modern Family, listening to podcasts, or eating food that I like, making the little things count. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanushka. And yeah, you mentioned dopamine. So I think dopamine is one of those hormones that make us happy. So it's very essential. Thank you for mentioning that. And okay, moving on, we have D. And D, how are you feeling right now?
So hi Nitya, hi team. What I'm feeling right now is I feel so happy because the first thing that I do the moment I woke up is just open my MacBook and talking to you guys because I love talking to people. Yes. And anyway, my name is Day April. I'm from Indonesia. I work here as a part of marketing and PR at Girl Power Talk. And yeah.
Thank you, Dee, for sharing. With that, we have all our members introduced, and let's move forward to today's conversation. And what we'll be discussing is more or so related to what are mental health triggers and how does mental health affect all of us personally and in what ways. So you'll see that there won't be a very straightforward answer to all of these questions because everybody feels differently and the personal situations really cannot be analyzed until and unless you have been the person who has experienced it. So being triggered is essentially experiencing a negative emotion and some emotional reactions in response to a current situation that is maybe disturbing to you. And we see that triggers are very common with people who have a past history of traumas or any memory that have been very much that puts the individual in a very uncomfortable situation. So it's like, people, even if they face it today around any situation, the triggers come back and it affects us in a very traumatic experience, bringing in all the memories and, just making the situation worse. So I'll move on and let the floor open for all my friends here to express their opinions and views on what does mental health triggers and mental health essentially means to them. So first, moving forward, we have Cleo. So Cleo, can you tell us about what does being triggered mean to you, and if there's any experience that you would like to share with us?
Yeah. So hi. So thank you so much for that wonderful question. I really wanted to answer that a while ago. So with regards to triggers, there are a lot of triggers for a person. It could be random things like what you've said, a trauma or experience that happened in the past before, right? So for me, what my trigger is as of the moment is actually being compared to other people because I just had like an experience with my dad, a not so good one, and I was compared to my cousin, and it kind of like made me feel like so dark and blue, like blue and gray state, because I didn't know what to do. It feels like what I do was not enough, being compared to my cousin like academically. So it wasn't really a good experience for me.
Well, Cleo, so do you feel the same right now, or has your experience changed anything right now for you? Or how do you deal with it?
So yeah, I still kind of like feel it, like by times when my dad talks to me, and he can't just help but compare me with my cousins. I mean, it happens randomly, but the way that I deal with it, it's kind of like I tend to like listen to what he says and then just let it out at the end of the day and like just not think about it completely. Because if I will let it affect me, then it's just gonna be ruining my day. So the best way for me to cope up is to just actually listen to music, that resonates with how I feel at the moment, and that is one of the things that I do like as of now, and I'm actually thankful that it does not happen as often as it did before.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I agree with you that letting go of things really helps you cope up with the emotional validation that you seek for yourself. And it's something that we all have to make sure that we keep it for ourselves and not seek it externally. So, okay. So, moving on. So, Sammy, tell us, what are your thoughts on, mental health triggers, and how do you think people really deal with it? And is there anything that you want to share with us that you have experienced personally?
Well, I can relate to what you said earlier that the experience itself, it comes from inside, not from external sources. And that reminds me of an incident that I had recently because like I'm always thinking that I'm that calm person that wouldn't be affected by anything, that wouldn't be triggered by anything. But just like recently, I had this moment of anger with a friend of mine where he just blamed me for something or just stated that my job could be more easier just because I'm working from home or something. And to me, at that moment, I just like raged at him, and all I thought about is that I'm not like that. It's not that easy. The working from home doesn't mean it's the job is easier in any way. And when I got back to it, when I thought about it properly, I found out why I raged at him. I raged at him for two reasons. The first one was like I was having a tough time at work and wasn't like letting myself explain that or tell that to anyone. So I was just keeping it to myself. And at the same time, I was having like some unresolved issues, you could say, with my friend that I couldn't like talk about it openly with him. So like it was like all those emotions were bottled up inside me, like waiting for the right chance to get out. And because I didn't give myself the chance to think about it every day, to think about what's going on, to think about how I'm dealing with life right now, it was just like waiting for the right moment, and then I blew up, and it was like a bad moment for me. It was like something I could feel explosive. But later on, I learned from the experience that I have to like pause for a minute after every like comment from anyone, especially when I feel like it affected me deeply. I have to like pause for a minute, think about it, does this concern me? Is this coming from inside or from outside? Because most of the time, it doesn't come from outside. It's something inside that needs to get out. So that's one thing. And the other is, I have to remember that what other people think of me, what other people say to me, doesn't concern me from inside. What other people think is something that they'll think, and that wouldn't change me. So I remember times where I was depressed and times where I was satisfied, and in both, people's opinions didn't change anything for how I felt. I still felt the same. I still like dealt with my emotions and my circumstances the same. So I think it doesn't matter what other people think as long as it doesn't affect me from inside.
That's a good point that you've made. But just wanted to know that as long as we don't let others people affect us, but eventually what happens is that our human brain is trained to let those emotions really affect us. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, I think, as I expressed earlier, that in those moments, I need my little moments of peace, my little moments, like I said in the beginning, we have like to train every day to have time to express it, time to write about it, time to talk to a friend about it, even to listen to some music or scream to a wall. Anything that could help me like recreate the situation and understand why it affected me in the first place, why I felt that it was important for me to satisfy other people's opinions when in fact it wasn't that important.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your little pieces of advice, Sammy. I mean, we could totally relate to it. And anybody who is suffering or suffers from any mental health disorders or even symptoms, uh, makes time to actually spend small pieces of their day with themselves, that really gives them a lot of peace and introspection, I would say. So, thank you so much again. Next, let's move forward to D. So how do you relate to the experiences that Cleo and Sammy have shared, and what is your version of mental health triggers?
Okay, thank you, Nitya, for the questions. But guys, be prepared because it's gonna be like a long story. But I'm just gonna share my experience. So for me, it started when I was in high school. I noticed that every time I overthink something related to someone's leaving me behind, or like I'm gonna be all alone, or like oh my close ones are not trusting me, I would feel extremely sad, and I would push people away because of it. And then I always had nightmares with the same thing again and again every night, and I always woke up crying. But back then, the moment I woke up, I always forgot what the dream was about. And because back then mental health issues like mental health illness, it was really a taboo, right? Like, so I didn't think it was like one of the symptoms of my triggers of mental illness. So long story short, I got into university, and that's when for the first time I experienced a panic attack. What triggered me was one of my close friends started distancing herself from me out of nowhere, and she just stopped talking to me, and the nightmare came back. But it was clear this time. So you know what? So turn out the nightmares that I always had before are like a flashback of the bullying I got in elementary school, and how I tried to tell my family about it, and how they didn't believe me, and how I got the blame because of it, even though I was the one who got bullied. And I always cried at that part, like how they didn't believe me. And it continued for weeks. I didn't tell anyone about it until one day I got hospitalized because I felt like my stomach was gonna collapse because of how much it hurt. And that's when the doctor that took care of me offered to talk to the psychiatrist because I was not getting better and just got worse every single day. And turned out it's just due to stress. So yeah, I talked to the psychiatrist, and suddenly all the flashback of the bad memories come back. I didn't know it was really that bad. So yeah, but not only about the bullying, but like all the memories that I forgot, the bad memories. And that's when I got diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety disorder. So what she told me, the reason why I forgot these memories before was because it hurting me so bad, so that my mind just like chose to forget it as a, what do you call it, like a coping mechanism. And yeah, how I just experienced the symptoms like trauma years after the incidents, it's usually how PTSD works, they said. And trauma usually doesn't happen when the incident occurs or right after it, but like sometimes it takes some times. And that's why, even though I forgot what happened, my body is still reacting to them. Like, for example, when my friend started to distance herself from me, I felt so stressed and trembling and got triggered. It's because it was my reactions when the bullying happened back then. So, yeah, that was from my personal experience.
Well, that's a deep experience, I would say, that many of us experience in different forms, but something that you really speak about, really comprehend, and actually, with time you get to accept that, but not accepting that what's happened to you, but actually accepting that you are much more stronger than what happened to you. So I think that's what I could relate to throughout your story and what you feel about it. And thanks for sharing that. And just I wanted to know that since you mentioned that this is something parents don't really believe you when you say that this is I am being like if this is something that is affecting me or this is something that is really affecting my mental health. The first thing that when we go to our parents is that we want them to believe us, but usually in I think a lot of cases happens that the belief that trust does not come in, and that is why I think so much of teenage and young adults and even the children suffer from a lot of mental health issues without us being realizing how deep and how bad it could be. So what are your comments on that, and how is it the situation with you now? Do they believe you now whenever you say that you're feeling down, or is it like something is affecting you? What's your story right now?
That's a really good question because after it all happened, my parents just opened their eyes like about the mental how important it is to take care of our mental health. Because after that moment, every time I feel sad, they just notice it and like, do you need us to talk to you? What is happening? Like, are you okay now? Like, it's something that like oh, they have changed because back then, oh my god, like even talking about going to a psychology, they'd be like, you're crazy, like we don't do that, right? But now like and also it affects my younger siblings now if they struggling, my parents, my family, they are like really concerned about it and just like taking care of it like together, they're aware of it. It's not like they're not judging us anymore. It's just like like we're gonna here to support you. And the first time that made me really like cry like emotional back then, it was like the moment when my parents went to the like the therapy with me, like for a therapy sessions, and it's like, oh, no way, like the younger self of me won't believe it ever, right? And then yeah, that's what really changed, and I'm actually really relieved that now my parents they are like on my side and that they believe me 100%. I think I remember something my mom said, you are my daughter, no matter what happened, I will always believe in you, I will trust you, you don't have to worry about it anymore. I was like, okay. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really a big statement coming to people who really suffer a lot, and especially throughout the childhood, to heal their inner child. So thank you for sharing so much. And next, okay, so now we have our friend Tanushka, and I think Tanushka, you do pursue some more technical knowledge about how the mental health business works, and towards more on the remedy side, I would say that what really are the necessities if you are experiencing any of the symptoms of it. So how do you see these as from your perspective, and what is it that you feel most triggered about? So let us know.
So, when the word trigger crosses my mind, I immediately associate it with any stimulus that causes a significant level of anxiety. While occasional anxiety is normal and helps us function and perform better, it becomes important to address when it starts affecting our daily routine, because this kind of anxiety may well indicate the presence of an anxiety disorder. So, when I speak of my triggers, I'm not using this word casually like it is these days. I am talking about triggers that genuinely worsen my mental health well being. So, what triggers me specifically are my boundaries being ignored and occasionally challenging social situations. Honestly, I've dealt with anxiety for as long as I can remember, even as a kid. However, I never truly acknowledged it because I was living with my parents in my comfort zone in a cocoon. So it never escalated into a pressing concern. And as a defense mechanism, I had mastered the art of ignoring or escaping such anxiety inducing situations. The turning point arrived when I decided to leave my hometown and family to pursue my bachelor's degree in psychology. New city, new faces, and the challenge of living independently for the very first time. The experience undeniably shot my anxiety to a significant degree. It may sound weird, but I'm actually very grateful that I was in such a situation that made me come to face with my mental health issues, because it was this moment that prompted me to seek help and not take my mental health lightly. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
That was insightful. And also, going for therapies or going to psychologists or psychiatrists, depending on how worse the situation is really, I feel like, on a larger perspective. Uh, in countries like maybe Philippines, Indonesia, India, Egypt, we really do not value this and value this in the right moment, I would say. So, how do you feel that therapies are a necessity, or is it something like because I remember consulting a therapist, and it was like the first session is free, but then I'm going to be getting charged $1,500 for a session, and to have myself overcome anything of what I was experiencing, they recommended me a 3-month long therapy session without a miss. So, citing that fact, how much expensive could it be on our pockets? Why do you think therapies are necessary, and what is like an affordable way or to communicate the importance of it to the youth today?
First of all, I would say that is a very brave step to go for therapy, Nitya. So I'm proud of you, because I understand it can be very overwhelming. It is very scary. I think all of us can understand that talking to a stranger about our feelings about our entire life is very scary. So that's great. Now, the big question is therapy. Should it be considered a necessity or luxury? In my unwavering belief, much like we have family doctors for regular checkups and medical guidance, we should also prioritize seeing mental health professionals as an integral part of our daily life and overall well being. Mental health is as important as physical health, and we should not wait for situations to reach crisis levels before seeking the support of a therapist. Therapy, to me, is an undeniable necessity. We all have baggage, whether they be past traumas, hindrances to current personal growth, or unhealthy coping mechanisms. And professional guidance can help us navigate these challenges. Simple. However, it is essential to acknowledge the flip side of the coin. While therapy is undoubtedly a necessity, it remains inaccessible to many people at this point in time. The reasons are multifaceted. Firstly, there is scarcity of mental health professionals, which drives up the cost of therapy. Becoming a psychologist or psychiatrist requires years of education and investment of substantial resources, which are reflected in the fees charged for their services. Additionally, the persistent stigmatization of therapy means that mental health professionals must consider their own livelihoods, which further contributes to the high costs of therapy in an attempt to balance the lower demand. Nonetheless, low cost of free mental health resources and services are available, such as community clinics, hotlines, and online therapy platforms, which are offering these services at either a lower cost or no cost at all. And these options aim to make mental health support more accessible for everyone. So I think that is a bright side, at least to a kickstart, I believe. Yeah. And I'm sorry if it got a little technical or boring.
Yeah, it's okay, I think. So, thank you for sharing those tips and the other methods that in which, at least if not the whole point of seeking therapy, could be exercise, but even to kickstart with small sessions or small talks, I would say. So that's like, I agree with Sammy. It's like we have a professional with us here, so not getting into the technical side would be a pointless on our end. So, thank you for sharing these experiences and insights and advices, guys. These are really something that we do not really talk on a day-to-day basis, I would say, but it's so essential, and it so much relieves you of the daily struggles of stress that we all experience. Um, Moving on, I think there's something that I would like to share, and what I have gathered from all of the experiences that you guys have really took out time to share with me and for this episode today. So I think the takeaways of this conversation, essentially for me, was how everybody is so much inspired and encouraged to talk about their mental health, yet we feel demotivated when it comes to doing so in public spaces because we think that it's something that would make us very different from the normal structure of the society, and that talking about it is something that would really showcase the flip side of our personality, that we are so emotional, we take things, little things, so seriously, or how are we always pers- uh, purviewing things in the light of how is it affecting us, but it is really what affects us in personal and professional space that we delves into our personality, I would say. So being happy at heart is the key to being the best version of yourself. And when we are happy with everything that we experience, when we are letting go of things, is something we all practice on a day-to-day basis, but it comes back to us. And to going through it, always making those small steps towards having a peaceful heart, a peaceful soul, I would say. It's so important in today's life, especially when we have to deal with so much on the outside. So the inner peace, inner child, nourishing, cherishing everything of it, every bit of it. It's very good to know that all of us at least are aware of why we need to take care of mental health, and why there is so much the necessity is there for that. So thank you everyone for sharing that. With that, I would like to conclude our episode, but before, I would like to have a small piece of advice, quote, anything that you would like to share with our audience today that you really feel you resonate to and you practice on a day-to-day basis. So Cleo, what is your mantra to mental health, I would say?
So yeah, basically what I just can say is that try to be happy, try to be optimistic as much as possible, let go of all the negativities and just live your life the way you want to. Don't hold back because it's gonna be worth it at the end of the day.
Baton gets passed to D.
This is one of the method that my therapist taught me before. So the moment you woke up, take a look at yourself in the mirror and just say, "You are amazing. You will do great today." And it will, yeah, it will boost your confidence to, just live your day. And yeah, that's for me.
I think that goes for all of us. Take a look at the mirror and see who you are for what you exist. Then, okay, Sammy, what's your mantra?
I guess that we need to talk more openly about how we feel about our emotions and learning from what Tanushka said, like acknowledging our boundaries and saying it openly without being afraid of people judging us.
Great. And finally, Tanushka, what's yours?
I think making self-care a priority, and just like Dee said, words of affirmation or positive self-talk, I think it really helps.
I can really relate to that. That's how I deal with it. Positive self-talk. So, okay. And from my side, I think I would just like to conclude by saying that our lives are a book that we offer other individuals to read, either by the words we speak or the actions we perform. So we will make mistakes, but that will serve as the guiding path to a lot of individuals reading our life stories. And our struggles and our successes will fill them with the hope to achieve theirs. So making sure that the book we are writing, as in the personality that we are developing, is not just confined for ourselves, but because that will take birth and die with our existence, right? So we will write it, we will develop our personalities in a way that it can enlighten our fellow human beings. The size, context, experiences never matters as long as your inner consciousness to act as a ray of hope for others really exists. So that's all. And thank you all for joining me today in this episode of the business of mental health. And Forward will be back with another episode of more compelling topics to cover. Thank you. Bye bye.